welcome to the Boys Crypto Show. What a crazy day we've had in the market. Isn't that nice to see some green boobles in the charts, baby? Some green boobles here on Crypto Bubbles. A lot of the major asset classes, almost every single one up double-digit percents today as Trump announces a 90-day halt on the majority of the tariffs he's been releasing upon the world, with the exception of China. We're going to be diving on in and seeing how that's impacting the market right here. Clearly, the market had an insane response. This is not, as I've said before, this is not an optimal trading environment, everyone. This move for BTC was about a 8% rally. Well, from the bottom here, about a 9% rally for Bitcoin in the span of about 4 hours. Does not happen very often. In just about 15 minutes here, we saw a 5% move for BTC. The amount of money that is needed to be injected into this asset, into the stock market, to create moves like this is astronomical. So here we are on BTC. This is on the 5-minute time frame, baby, and we are forming like a little bit of a shoulder, head right shoulder here. I do not like the way that is looking on the smaller time frames, but baby, we're gonna dive on in and see what this is looking like on the macro. What does this mean in the long term? Before we dive on in any further, I want to do a special shout out for every single one of you here that is joining me on your Wednesday night. Shout out to April, Wanda, Sleep, Michaela, I appreciate you. Crispy, what's going on? Lily, Evan, hey, what's going on? Sin Nasty Kid, what's going on? Thank you for dropping on in the chat tonight and spending your most precious asset with me, as the Crypto Lifer says, baby, your time. Thank you for being here tonight. So, Bitcoin, baby, Bitcoin. Let's look at Bitcoin here on the daily and see what this bounce has given us yesterday. This candle, a monster green candle to the upside, a nice bullish engulfing candle here on the daily, and we also have this daily bullish divergence that is rearing its head as we have a swing down in price action while we have a swing up on the RSI. The last set of bullish divergence did not work out. Right here we had that swing down on the price action while we had that swing up on the RSI, and we fell to the downside, a very bearish sign. But now we have a new set of bullish divergence. Let's see if this one can kick us to the upside. This set of bullish divergence does say we are likely to crack this high here at about 88.6 before we crack that 74.5 level. These candles have been massive for BTC, for the altcoins, and for the markets abroad. That's why this environment has not really been good for trading, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be honest with you, a single tweet from the president and a little shift in tone leads to massive market moves. Look at the NASDAQ here. The NASDAQ rebounding almost unheard of here. Look at this candle in the NASDAQ. Zoom on out here and see the last time you saw a daily candle that was this large here for the NASDAQ. You don't see any. Look at this daily candle, almost unheard of for the NASDAQ, rallying 14% in a day. I would have to go back and look, but I would be surprised if that wasn't one of the biggest candles we've ever had in NASDAQ history. I think it was, I'll go down and say that. I think it was the biggest candle we had here in NASDAQ history. I don't see a single candle here in the past 10 years that even matches the candle that we had yesterday on the NASDAQ. Maybe here with no, I don't even. No, nothing comes close to the candle we had yesterday. Maybe COVID here, COVID, baby, COVID. No, nothing even comes close. This was the biggest candle, I believe, in NASDAQ and S&P 500 history. This 14% move in a single day, 15% move in a single day, unheard of for traditional markets. Not unheard of for Bitcoin, but for traditional markets, man, this was a crazy bullish engulfing candle to the upside. Are we out of the woods yet? No, I do not think we are. We're still battling head to head with China here. Over to the news, we're seeing this here. We're halting the tariffs the next 90 days, but we're hiking it on China, baby. This administration taking on China, baby, taking on China. Yeah, China showing the U.S. he's raising tariffs on the imports from 104 to 125%. I saw Kevin O'Leary yesterday saying, screw that, I want 400% on China. Is that going to happen? We'll have to, that remains to be seen. But man, we are getting a little break with the other countries is that the purpose of it is to allow other countries to get a chance to make a deal with the United States before these tariffs go into effect. But the market is taking that as these tariffs are not going to last very long, and we are primed for a move to the upside. That's what the markets are pricing in. They're also still pricing in those rate cuts from the Fed. So we'll see if we get that the next time Jerome Powell comes out to speak, which I believe is early in May. In May, we'll have to look that up. But Jerome Powell just came out saying that, hey, we may be a little more dovish here in the near future. And that was March 13th or so. And Jerome Powell, when's the next time Jerome Powell speaks? We did have the minutes today. We had him last time on April 4th. Yeah, so we won't be seeing him for about another month. What's going on this week in the market? So we have Thursday coming up, a big day, everybody. Initial jobless claims do come out tomorrow. That's going to be a market mover, as well as CPI, the measure of inflation, with the exception of energy and food, and PPI, the measure of inflation when it comes from the perspective of the seller creating their product. So that's going to be really interesting to keep track of as we go into the rest of the week. Those are going to be your big news driving events for the NASDAQ, and they will likely hit the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, and Bitcoin relatively hard. Why? Because we just had a historic candle for the NQ and S&P 500. And not for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's moved like this before, but for the NQ and the S&P, this is history right here. This candle will go down in history. Maybe one of the biggest candles we see for the next few years. I mean, you don't know, but this is the biggest candle that I've ever seen on the NASDAQ and the NQ on the daily, at least since 2001. So this is a day in history to remember, and it just goes to show how sensitive the markets are right now. But we're going to start like we do every single day, diving on into Bitcoin. We already went over the daily getting that beautiful daily bullish divergence, telling us that we're likely to crack that 88.6 level before we crack 74.5. We are still trading beneath that daily 200 SMA. We have a high volume node cluster we're coming up to test right now. That's going to be a key area for BTC to push up past and flip to support. That's sitting around about 84,000. So what I'd like to see is a come up, a test of that 200 SMA, a little bit of consolidation, and a move up to test this high volume node at about 96,000. That's likely going to take some time. Very unlikely we see boom, 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 multiple big green candles in a row, because the tariffs are already priced in. Not only priced in, but the relief of these tariffs not coming into effect for the next 90 days has already hit the market. Very, very clear by the NASDAQ. That's crazy. I've never seen candles like that on the traditional markets. It's absolutely wild to see the sensitivity in the market right now. We will see how this develops going on in the rest of the week with those major economic data coming on out into the rest of the week, baby. That CPI, PPI, and the initial jobless claims all coming out tomorrow and Friday respectively. On over here to the fear and greed index. We are still sitting in the fear, but we got a massive pump of about 21 points, baby. 21 points in the last day. That alleviated a lot of that fear, and here we are. That might have been some of the best prices you could have ever gotten these assets at. Look at these. You know, even clicking on to say Ondo today, you could have got Ondo yesterday at 69 cents, now trading at about 90. Render making an awesome move. Fartcoin screaming to the upside, crazy. Fartcoin up about 100% this month. A week ago, you could have gotten at 36 cents. You know, I'm not advocating for Fartcoin or anything, but I'm saying that a lot of these assets that are up double digits percent, they're off their lows massively, and now Jupiter's sitting at 38. You had the opportunity to get it at 32. And, you know, there was screaming bearishness in the chart. You needed a macroeconomic driver or a news indicator to give you that pump to the upside. And boy, oh boy, did you get it. Flare getting a 30% move to the upside. These are massive moves for crypto. Even Trump getting a little bit of a pump. Almost everything. I don't see a red bubble on here, baby. I do not see a red bubble on here in the top 100, almost in the 200. That's crazy. XCN ripping 40% off the lows here. What a weekly move. What a daily move. A 40% move move daily for XCN off the news. That is a crazy move for those assets. Drop those coins in the chat, everybody. What do you guys want to look over today? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. What's going on? What's going on? I appreciate each and every single one of you dropping on here. CPI tomorrow. JJ, CPI. Okay, so here's what I think. Let's see what they think it's coming in at. CPI, the estimate at 0.2%. That's pretty standard. So it depends. It depends on if CPI is going to account. It's going to account for the tariffs, isn't it? Yeah, it's January through March. It's going to account for the tariffs. I couldn't tell you, man. The estimate 0.2%, pretty conservative. It looks okay. I still think that inflation is a little. It could go either way, man. It really could go either way. Whatever we see for CPI, likely to see for PPI going on into Friday. I think 0.2% is pretty fair. I wouldn't be surprised to see it coming at about 0.3, a little higher than expected. Just because of the bond market right now, man. I think a lot of money has been shifted into the bond market, and inflation's a little higher than I think the Fed has a grasp on, but they're going to have no choice. They're going to have no choice to cut rates if we keep seeing increased jobless claims numbers. So a lot of it goes hand in hand with one another with these big economic news drivers. I think CPI either going to come in as expected or a little higher. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see tomorrow, man, when that gets released. But yeah, CPI is definitely going to be a news driver. I will say this though, with that being a historical daily candle on the Nasdaq, I think the market is going to be a little more sensitive to these news drivers. So if you get really, really good news on CPI, you could lead to a pretty massive rally. If you get bad news, that leads to so bad news is going to lead to the Fed likely to cut rates, which is bullish for the market. But good news is good for the economy, so traditional markets will likely rally. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Markets are relying on these rate cuts in order to move further to the upside. It's true, man. It's true. So in order to get those rate cuts, you need bad news. So whatever way CPI goes tomorrow, I could kind of see it being I don't see it being bearish in any way for the market based on the current environment that we're in. I think the tariffs are taking the market over by storm when it comes to I don't think any of these really matter as much as the tariffs going on, and that is proofs in the pudding right here with this candle, baby. With this candle, what a massive move on the Nasdaq and Bitcoin, and all risk on assets, baby, moving to the upside. So yeah, that's my thoughts on CPI. We'll have to wait and see how that comes in, but I don't think it's going to move the market like tariff news. That's why the entire market is in fear right now. Those massive tariffs being put on by President Trump on all these other countries. A lot of countries caving and saying, hey, we'll go 0 for 0. China needs to negotiate. That's the big one. You ever pick up something in here in the United States that isn't made in China or Taiwan? What was the last thing you guys looked at that was made in the European Union? I don't think I own anything that was made in the European Union. I don't know. I have no idea. So yeah, a lot of our stuff, a lot of our products are made in China. And I would argue that really any of the deals we make with other countries really don't matter as much as China. Our biggest trade partner, our biggest importer is China. So that's going to be a huge deal between President Trump and President Xi. To see if they could come up with something that really allows these markets to recover to the upside, baby. CPI, baby. CPI coming in tomorrow. It could go either way. That's what I'm looking at. President Xi, see that everyone else is going to negotiate 125%. Only hit to China. He will think about it. Yeah, Wanda wants to look at virtuals. Absolutely, Wanda will do it. Yeah, reviews. Hey, man, I totally agree with you. I agree with you. I still stand by this, though. I still stand by this. Though the United States is making deals with everybody and everybody's caving, nobody else has the economic influence over the United States like China. China can act independently of everybody else around the world. And President Xi, as Trump has said, is one of the smartest men on the planet. He really is. Despite how people feel about China, that is one of the smartest guys in the world, according to President Trump himself. So to me, I don't think he's just going to bend over and do whatever the rest of the world is. He's looking after the interests of China, and China is our #1 importer. He has leverage. He does have leverage that a lot of the other countries I don't feel like have. Yeah, so President Xi definitely has leverage. He does have leverage, so we'll have to see how he decides to play. A very smart man, and I don't think he's just going to cave going 0 for 0. Absolutely not. If he goes 0 for 0, China will take a beating when it comes to the economy, and maybe I don't know, maybe he does. But I think that there's going to be some give and take. I don't think China just rolls over. President Xi is too smart of a dude, and he knows the grip that he has on the American economy right now. He has the ability, solely himself, and China to really cause some economic damage to the United States. So I think a fight with China, like if you think of it like a game of Mario, brother, a game of Mario, you know, you're going through Bowser's castle and you're attacking all those little turtles and stuff. China is Bowser, baby. China is the boss fight. Everything else suffers in comparison to China. In order to have that, it's going to be a much more difficult battle with China than it is with any of the other countries in the world, because arguably China, the number 2 superpower in the world behind the United States, it has the ability to do some major economic damage, and to see them roll over, that would be the catalyst for the upside that Bitcoin and traditional markets would need. So that's what I'm thinking about when it comes to the tariffs, baby. The tariffs, China looking to battle the United States, baby, looking to battle the United States, and we'll see how that comes out. Any good news, if China does decide to roll over, you're going to see all-time highs in the NASDAQ, the S&P, for Bitcoin even potentially. Like this asset class would rally massively on China rolling over. Every risk on asset class would, and a 0 for 0 free trade throughout the entire world. Wow, what a boomer for the economy. That would be absolutely crazy, especially for the United States. And then we could get on going into those things like tax-free crypto, things of that nature. People would be super bullish again. That could be the beginning of altcoin season. Would not be surprised to see Bitcoin dominance rolling over here. And, you know, yesterday we did get a little bit of a rollover. This new daily candle, not really a rollover. Yeah, you formed a little bit of a flaggeroonie on the 4-hour time frame. We'll see how this plays out over time, but yeah, this candle does need to start to turn red, everybody, in order for Bitcoin dominance. You could get to that squeeze up to the 786, but so far we're respecting this upper trend line right here. You need to see Bitcoin dominance start to roll. If you don't, Bitcoin could go on that super cycle that everybody seems to be talking about on X. Are they right? I don't know, but we still have this inverted cup and a handle coming up to the 618, 786. Until that 786 retracement from the inverted cup and handle gets violated, I have to be bearish on Bitcoin dominance. I get that it's been in a 2-year uptrend. I get the strength that it's had recently. Now, I get that a lot of the altcoins are suffering comparatively to BTC, but I'm telling you this, when this happened last time, you know, you broke that prior high. That's crazy. You broke that prior high, and then you went on the biggest alt season that we've ever seen, a 45% decrease in Bitcoin dominance in just 4 months. That's likely what it will look like. Again, a massive dump to the downside, supported by the evidence of this VRVP here. If you start rolling that ball down the hill, this will drop fast. It'll drop faster than anybody else expects, and this handle would take you down to a point of Bitcoin for Bitcoin dominance that has not been seen before on the charts, down here to about 29-30%. Could that happen? Absolutely. The inverted cup and handle coming up to the 618, 786 bearish retrace to the downside with the gap in the VRVP and the weekly bearish divergence. We've been going over that every single day here on the channel, baby. Every single day on the channel. Yeah, China must negotiate reviews. Yeah, I mean, I hope they do. I hope they do, man. I don't know what goes on behind those closed doors, but I do know this, that China is the big boss. China is the big boss that the United States needs to negotiate with. Everybody else I see as those little mini bosses, those little turtles in Bowser Castle. Bowser's the boss, and that's China, baby, and Trump's going to take him on. And if he wins, man, that would be the boom for the United States economy that we've never seen. We'll see foreign investment come into this nation like we've never seen before with world free trade. A lot of those things that Trump's been saying that we've been taking advantage of, a lot of the big business leaders of America saying that we've been taken advantage of by China. If he solves that issue, you know, that could lead to some massive foreign investment. And then those plans of abolishing the IRS and things of that nature can start to come into fruition, because we'll have true free trade, and we wouldn't need the income tax anymore, man, in order to fund America and everything. So it could fund a lot of those things. World free trade could fund a lot of the things that Trump is pushing for. We'll have to see how that pushes throughout these upcoming weeks. Really, really interesting. All right, diving on in, baby. Diving on in. Wanda, let's look at virtuals. Virtuals, we were calling the bottom for virtuals. Ended up not being the right call. I mean, we did get the reaction trade. We did get the reaction from the bottom on virtuals around 50 cents, and we took advantage of this right here. Called the bottom out of that daily bullish divergence here. The daily bullish divergence, we got that reaction. We got out of our trade to the upside, and then, we flushed to the downside. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, now here we are on virtuals again. Zooming on in, a fresh set of bullish divergence. Looks to be rearing here in the charts. Ever so slightly bullish divergence here. You do have a slight swing down here on the RSI while you're swinging down on price. That's slight bullish divergence, but to me, I think virtuals is going to be a big player when the altcoin season does start. I really do. I really do. Could we get the bounce here for virtuals? Absolutely. But I think we got all eyes are on Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin needs to start its rally again. Bitcoin needs to get back above that daily 200 SMA, and these altcoins are really struggling. Virtuals is down in the dumps. It's kind of crazy to see it this far beneath where it was just a couple of months ago, trading at $5. And you did get a little bit of a 20% pump here over the last 12-hour time period. It could go either way for virtuals. I do like that. You don't even have major. Let's see here. Zooming on in, Wanda. Zooming on in. Let's look at it here. So we do have some pretty strong bullish divergence on the 4-hour time frame, and it has not been satisfied yet. You have the swing across in the price action while you have this severe swing up on the RSI indicator. That is very, very strong bullish divergence, suggesting that you cracked this high before you cracked this low, and you got really close. Though that bullish divergence has not been satisfied yet, let's break it down on the smaller time frame. So you're playing 200 MA dominoes. You broke above the 1, 3, 5, 10, 15. Did you break above the 30? You're above the 30-minute 200 SMA. You want to see this hold in order for a push to the 1-hour 200 SMA. The 21 coming up in the price action, not looking too bad. The RSI curving to the upside, sitting there just above 50. So that does say that we're at fair value. The stochastics look like they want to turn as the angle's getting a little less right here on the stochastic RSI. It seems like that virtuals does want to give a little bit of a turnaround here. That high volume node sitting at about 4660 is a key area to maintain here for virtuals. You're coming down, turned it into support. Looks very, very good for virtuals on a rebound to the upside. It looks like it could happen. It looks like it could happen fast for virtuals. Why do I say it could happen fast? Well, you're in a free fall to the downside, and you have this giant gap in the VRVP above you supporting that thesis to the upside. If we do get a continued rally for Bitcoin throughout the night, which I'm not entirely sure is going to, for me, my thesis for Bitcoin, we've already had the pump. We had the pump, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be honest. All right, look, virtuals got that pump. Everything got the pump. Everything's sitting in that beautiful green wave. But what happens after days like this, everybody? What happens? Everybody knows. Everybody knows that watches this channel. Are we going to start longing on days like this? No, we cannot long on days like this. We have to wait for consolidation, right? Anybody that was on 5X yesterday doubled their money on Ondo, quadrupled their money, tripled their money on Fartcoin. Like, these are, you've had people sitting in massive gains right now to open up longs right now. On virtuals, a little bit of a different story. Coming back down to that, the high volume node right here, you're off the highs probably by what, about 5-10% right here, 5%. Yeah, so looking okay for virtuals, but you got to be careful longing these areas after a historic green candle to the upside. Look at this candle. No candle in the Nasdaq's history has ever came close to this. None. I don't even need to go back very far. I could go back all the way. This is 2018. Anybody see a candle that big? No, they just don't exist. They don't exist in the Nasdaq. So after a historic move, I have to wait. On these news drivers to see how the market's going to react. This was a crazy look. In order to go from 16.7 to about 19.5, how long did that take? How long did that take for us here? To go from 16.7 to 19.5. From 16.7 here, 16.7 up to 19.5. It took us 188 days to do what this candle did in a single day. It took 6 months of time for the Nasdaq to climb this high from 16.6 to up to 19.5, right? It took the Nasdaq a single day yesterday to do what the Nasdaq did 6 months prior. It took 6 months In order for 188 days for the NASDAQ to make this climb, we just did it in a single day. This market is still not on its 2 feet, and we are not out of the waters yet. It is important to understand that. And after a big green candle like that, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a pullback going into tomorrow, especially if we get non-promising news. Unlikely that we continue to rally for the upside, especially after a historic rally like that. That's just what I'm looking at. So on the NASDAQ, right, for a lot of the assets, a lot of them are looking like this. Does Bitcoin not look like this? Does virtuals not look exactly like this on the 15-minute time frame? Looks exactly the same. Look at virtuals and look at any other asset that you want to on the 15-minute time frame. Does it not look exactly like the NASDAQ? Yes. Everything's kind of trading in unison right now with those risk-on assets. So virtuals, NASDAQ, a lot of the charts that we're going to look at tonight are very, very similar in structure, baby, in structure. All right. Here we go on the NASDAQ. Right, just looking at the NASDAQ, it's important to understand we were making lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. We made a higher low and a higher high. So on the micro time frames, on the 15-minute, shout out to all my micros out there. Sin Nasty Kid, what's up, brother? On the micro time frames, the 15-minute, you made your first lower low or higher low right here. We made a lower low and we made a lower high. And now we made a higher low. And now we made a higher high. What is that? Everybody who watches this channel knows that is a shift in market structure. Lower low, lower high, higher low, higher high. That is the first shift you need in order for a turnaround here on the NASDAQ. So what's likely to happen? Your next higher low is going to come in. Where's that higher low likely to come in for the NASDAQ? And you could probably pull this fib on almost every asset that you own. From swing low to swing high, where's that next higher low to come in? That's right here at that 618786 golden pocket Fibonacci. Even if we come down here throughout the night, maybe negative news tomorrow pushes us into this golden pocket, and then we get that push to the upside. That would be healthy market consolidation to the upside for the NASDAQ, and this might have been just a blip in the radar, and that would get us going to the upside again for the NASDAQ on the smaller time frames. So another thing I do want to pull here from our local, I do want to pull a fib right here and see where we came, because this might be a 618786 bearish retracement. Pull your fibs in both directions, ladies and gentlemen. Very important. We came up to the 706 and rejected right here from this reaction up here from the prior high of the previous consolidation period. That is a 706 rejection. So if a lower high is likely to come in here on, like, say, the 4-hour, the lower high is likely to come in here. This would be the likely place for it to happen before continuation to the downside. The stochastics are cooked right here. It's important to know that. And look at, oh, wow, we got very oversold on the 4-hour. You know, on the NASDAQ, I don't know if you've ever gotten that oversold on the 4-hour. Look at, we drew this line right here. Let's go back in time. You are never going back through what, COVID? Do you see anything that touches this line? Oh, right here. What was this? February 5th of 2018 was the last time we were that oversold on the 4-hour time frame. And it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think that at that point, the NASDAQ was trading at 6,000. 6,000. We're currently trading at 16,000. That was 2018. That was the last time the NASDAQ was that oversold on the 4-hour. All right, diving on into the chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got Sin Nasty Kid diving on in. House Coin, another Dex gem. If you want to check it out fast, yeah, man, we'll do it. Absolutely. If Uncle Pal reviews, I agree with you, brother. If Uncle Pal comes in and pumps money into this market, oh yeah, baby. Blue skies breakouts for everything. I'll call that, man. If you start getting some rate cuts and we start going in the direction COVID did, what happened when we started cutting rates before? We were in COVID, baby. Let's look at Bitcoin. We were in absolute carnage before. Oh my gosh. COVID, baby. COVID. NASDAQ, easier. COVID, one of the most devastating times in the economy for the majority of us, was it not? All right, so back here in 2020, I know where I was in 2020. I was in nuclear power school, baby, for the United States Navy. Whoa, what a fun time. Yeah, that was horrible. But hey, here we go, back in that COVID time, baby. We had this absolute cataclysmic event, and it got worse. COVID didn't last 20 days. We had no idea what in the world we were doing with that month, and it started getting worse. But what did the market do? It rallied. Why did the market rally? Because we turned on that money printer, baby, and we injected trillions upon upon trillions of dollars in the market. Where did people put it? Where did I put all my stimulus checks, baby? Into the market, baby, and it ripped to the upside. So did everybody else. Everybody who didn't need that money, what did they do with it? They put it in the either savings or they put it in the market. When you put it in the savings, that's okay. The bank will take it and put it in the market for you and pay a piddly interest rate on it. So the banks put it in the market anyway. So almost all money that wasn't needed during COVID went into the market. That's what went into this cataclysmic run to the upside. Now, we have tariffs. We have uncertainty in the market. It's been absolutely crazy. If Jerome Powell turns on the money printer like this, like we did back here, we could see another monumental move to the upside. We could see a $30,000, $35,000, $40,000 NASDAQ. And it is possible. It is very, very possible, everybody. We have to keep that on our radar as a real possibility. As a real possibility here in the near term, in the event that Jerome Powell does turn on that money printer. Let's get this chat updated here, everybody. Sin that again. Let's dive on into your coin, brother. I appreciate you. Want a house coin on Deck Screener. Let's dive on into it, man. Deck Screener, for anybody who doesn't know, Deck Screener is the hot area to check out coins that are released on chain, whatever chain that you guys want to go into that aren't released on TradingView. So a house coin, likely something that hasn't been around a long time, and TradingView hasn't put it on their platform yet. 16 days old, likely not going to be put on TradingView. House coin on Solana, just getting released not too long ago. Let's look at this on the 1 hour. Yeah, you're on a blue skies breakout, man, and it looks pretty good to me here. Now, would I be aping into this coin? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Look, we got to dive into it. This is on Solana. So what do I do with every asset here on Solana? I have to go into the anti-rug agent. The anti-rug agent is so cool. For anybody who doesn't know it, it gives me all the data I need to know about a coin before I dive on into it. So I'm going to just paste the address here, and I know absolutely zero, none, zilch, nada about this coin. But I know AI agent will do a really, really quick analysis of this, and we'll see what it's looking like here. Giving it an AI safety score, baby, an AI safety score of 80%. That's pretty hot. It looks really, really good. Wallet counts under 10,000. The only red flag that it has in the top 10 holders own less than 14.6%. That looks hot to me. The top holder only owning 2.09%. That's interesting. So why is that important? Because you're not going to get rugged. The odds of you getting rugged on this coin are slim to none. Why? Because even if even if the top guy wanted to get out, that's only 2% of the supply. Would that cause some liquidity issues? Yes, probably, because there's only about 500,000 in liquidity here. Am I right? About $500,000 in liquidity here on House Token, but this looks pretty good, man. A 72% rally in the span of just a couple hours. This has been massive, man. This has been massive on the daily. Yeah, over the course of the day, rallying massively to the upside. Volume falling off a little bit, not a big deal. So there's not a lot of sellers stepping, which is pretty interesting. So this looks good, man. This looks good. So I would be looking for, I would wait. For me, I'd have to wait for some kind of consolidation, baby. Some kind of consolidation. I'll keep this on my radar, brother. I appreciate you. Yeah, this is a new coin that just got released not too long ago on Deck Screener. I got that written down on my notes here. Yeah, and you do have, let's see, holders, 7,000 holders. Not too bad. Do they have a Twitter? They do have a Twitter. Let's go on over here. I never read that statement. Let's dive on in. We have 2,800 followers. Looks okay. House coin world order hedge the housing market. Interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. House coin fixes this. Hey man, I'm gonna dive on into this. I'll do a little dive into the white paper. That's cool. I like that a lot. I appreciate you dropping that in our radar. Yeah. All right, cool. I was just making sure I wasn't frozen there. The camera looks like we got those issues figured out. Thank you, Lord. We got it figured out now. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at for a house. It looks good, man. I'm going to dive into the white paper. I'll follow them here on Twitter, webuyhouses.com. Flipping the housing market one house at a time. That's cool. Yeah, we'll dive on into this, man. It's pretty interesting. Things taking over in the housing market. I see a lot of those share platforms where you could dive on in. What is this? No, chill out. They got memes on here. Yeah, man, I like that a lot. Yeah, I'll take a look at this, man. I'll dive on in and I'll let you know what I think. That's interesting. And that may be something that trading at a penny? Trading at a penny? And a $13.4 million market cap is nothing in the face of crypto. I'm telling you guys, to see something get to $1 billion market cap It happens. It happens a lot in crypto. A 10x would be 130 million. A 100x would take this to the 1.3 billion dollar level on Solana. Can it happen? Absolutely. If you're looking for a 100 or a 1000x or 100x more likely in this case, this would be the kind of coin you would need to be looking at. So I'll do a little bit of a deep dive, man. I appreciate you putting this on our radar. That looks really, really interesting to me. 70% in the last 24 hours. Looks juicy. The upside for House going on a blue skies breakout as we speak. I want to see some kind of consolidation. So let me give this another day, 2 days of consolidation here and see how this plays out to the upside. I will say this. This is kind of strange. This is something you don't see that often. When you make a low, so you didn't break that low, did you? So you made a higher low, higher high. That next higher low would be where I'd be looking to get in, man. So we'll see how this channel kind of consolidates here. I'd like to see some kind of consolidation before I go getting on into this coin, man. But this may be something that I'd like to add to the portfolio. Not a meme coin, everybody. This would be something that does have some utility, but I'm going to be diving on into it. The housing market will collapse. This coin is your hedge, Michael Burry. That'd be interesting. Yeah, so I'll look at it. There's an 80% score on anti-rug. Looks interesting to me, man. I appreciate you dropping that on the radar. House coin, baby, house coin. I'll give you an update on that tomorrow, man, whenever I get a chance to dive on into this later on off stream. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. All right, diving on into the chat. We looked at virtuals for Wanda reviews. Yeah, I appreciate your opinions, brother. I think Uncle Pal rate cut would be huge. House coin for Sin Nasty Kid went over that. How about a Bitcoin chart looking upwards, please? Yeah, let's dive on into it. I'll take a quick peek at Bitcoin. We'll do a peek at Bitcoin BTC, baby. I minted sats, and that's reached 1 billion. I hope I bought more on JJ. Hey, I appreciate you, brother. Yeah. All right, BTC. Let's dive on into the smaller time frames and see if we can get a bigger rally as we go throughout the night. You know what's cool? The Asia trading session just starting now about a half hour ago. We'll have to see how they want to play this, with the volume they got from the market. All right, so right now, we're playing 200 MA dominoes. We came up to the 3-hour 200 SMA for BTC. We came up to the 2. Where's the 1? All right, so right now you're pinned in between the 1 and the 2-hour 200 SMA. The 1, the 2, and the 3-hour 200 SMA. You want to crack above this 2-hour 200 SMA. And the 4. So you do have heavy resistance right above where you are right now for BTC. Why? Because until proven otherwise, the 2, the 3, and the 4-hour 200 SMAs are all going to serve as massive resistance point before you come up and test this daily 200 SMA coming up at about $87,000. And we ran into it like a truck, baby. We hit it and we got rejected off of those 3 areas that are overlapping right now in the charts as resistance. Now, with that being said, you're flagging above the 1-hour time frame. You want to see some kind of consolidation here. As the 1-hour 200 SMA continues to trend down / curve, and we can see this 21 could come up to price action with that lifer vision, baby. Shout out to the crypto lifer teaching me this year. The 21 likes to come up into the price action while you form out into these flags here, and you will get that move to the upside, highly likely. And what are you waiting for? These stochastics to reset and the RSI to come back down to fair value, and that would be the area where we would look for a launch to the upside. I do see consolidation for Bitcoin here going throughout the night. I will keep this in mind. We have to keep this in mind. A break upwards from here, you are running into an area of heavy resistance. Why do I say that? Well, you have not only the 1, you have not only the 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, and the daily 200 SMA. You have these high volume nodes that are sitting right above you at about 84,000. There is a massive leaps and bounds that are going to be need to be made in order for Bitcoin to continue to the upside here. There's a lot of resistance, a lot of people that still want to get out of this market with the uncertainty in the space. So yeah, you could see some resistance here, and we are seeing resistance right now at that 2, 3, and 4-hour 200 SMA. You want to see this 1-hour 200 SMA hold and see if you can get some kind of consolidation throughout the night. That's why I think we're going to see some consolidation as we go throughout the night, man. That's all I'm seeing. I don't see another pump coming to the upside, not for at least the next maybe 12 to 24 hours. We want to see how New York session does open tomorrow, and it's likely not going to move the market at all until we get that CPI and initial jobless claims data coming on in. That is really going to truly be one of the first major news events that we've seen since these tariffs have been put into place. Very important that we keep that going, man. Very important that we keep that on our radar going into tomorrow. That's tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Both those news events come out. So what do you do when those news events, this is something I haven't gone over. What do you do? What do you do whenever you have these news events come and you're like, holy crap? Well, number one, it's no trade zone, but if you do get that rally if you do start getting a rally around that 8:30 a.m. part, you're going to get tons of people opening up 100, 200x leverage positions in either way, gambling on the market. That's why there's often those whipsaw price actions, because the market makers are going to come and take all that liquidity. Anybody above 50x leverage usually gets absolutely wrecked, regardless of what news there is, because they'll likely dip and rip or rip and dip it. And that's just the reality. That's the reality. You have to be super lightning fast in order to capitalize on those kind of moves in the market. So what do? Well, during those economic events, I come on over here, and this is fun for me. This is fun for me, baby. I dive on in here on the U.S. Economic Indicator, and I just keep hitting this little button up here, the refresh button. You'll just keep hitting it like that, and then this will update right here underneath the actual of what you get the forecast, and then you're going to get the actual. The actual number will pump up here, and you'll be able to see how many jobs we have, how many jobless claims we have comparatively to the amount that they thought. That's what you're comparing right here. You're comparing what was thought by economists, what the numbers expected to come in at. You're seeing if it's above or below expectations. That's what you're looking at for news events. You get below expectations, and that means, a little healthier for the economy, and, not as many people are filing for jobless claims. Maybe those people found jobs or employment elsewhere, right? And CPI, you get a lower percentage. That means things did not get as expensive for the consumer, with the exception of food and energy, which are some of the quickest movers when it comes to inflation in our country. Food and energy, baby. So this is like random projects like your bath towels on Amazon or whatever, right? So how much those prices have inflated on average over the course of whatever 100 random products that they like to measure. So that's what you're looking at when you're coming at news events, baby. You just want to keep hitting this refresh button until you get the data, and usually it comes on with a white paper as well, and you can look that up on Google if you want to dive into the real intricate portions of the report that comes out. All right, diving on into the chat. We looked at house coins. I minted Sats, and that reached $1 billion. I wish I bought more Sats, baby. Sats. Sats. Why does that ring a bell? Sats, baby. On OKX. No. Sats on Polyenex. Doesn't look like we have a clear chart here, man. But yeah, we'll move on from that, man. We'll move on. Is it on Dex Screener? Sats on Solana. Was it Bitcoin L2 coin? Yeah, I'm not seeing it here, man. If you see something, if you're looking at Sats, S-A-T-S, yeah, let me know what chain it's on, man. I could pull up a chart and I could take a quick glance at it, but I'm not 100% sure I'm looking at what you're looking at. Anything here, the market caps are so low right now. It's not even what you're looking for, man. But yeah, or it's probably not what you're looking for. If you're looking at anything with a market cap of $12,000, it's going nowhere, going absolutely nowhere. But I don't think that's what you're looking at, man. All right, diving on in. Spot bags at profit now. If I were you, will you wait for tomorrow or TP now? All right, so reviews. If you got into a long at Bitcoin or any of these altcoins, right? Look, I get that there's a potential for a further rally. There is. But even if you got in anywhere down here, for me, if I was in a long, which I'm not, I will say that I'm not in any leverage positions right now, because leverage to me is not a game I want to be playing in this kind of wild macroeconomic environment we got going on. Look at this candle for Bitcoin. This is insane. This is insane. Bearishness in the chart, absolutely crazy. And we got that massive pump to the upside off of that random news that came out with Trump just randomly deciding to change his mind on countries. Crazy, right? That's why I don't want to be leverage trading, because I would have been short here and I would have gotten absolutely wiped. That saved me money in my mind mentally, right? Because I know I would have gotten wiped right here if I went short on Bitcoin, even though the charts are screaming bearish, baby. The charts are screaming bearish. And, we got that. It's crazy. It's crazy that how the market is moving right now. So what I would do if I were in a long, right? If I were in a long and I got above the 200 SMA on the 1 hour, I would take 50% off the table and move your stop to break even, man. Why would I do that? We got horrible news tomorrow and you'll see a candle like this. You could see a candle like that, right? Bart Simpson, baby. Bart Simpson to the downside. It could happen. And why am I saying that? Because you want to lock in your gains while you have them, man. The odds of this being the Bitcoin bottom, no one's going to be able to call the Bitcoin bottom where it's likely going to be. We could theorize based on the 618786, but the dollar amount, we don't know. We don't know what news events are coming out. Take your money while you have it, brother, and then look for the next hot trade opportunity. When will the next, trade come to fruition? Like tomorrow after the event, you could take advantage of the initial reaction. What would the initial reaction be? Oh, bad, and then some kind of news event, news catalyst getting it along down here and then moving to the upside. What would, another good idea? Hey, I'm going to take profit here and wait for the 618786 retest to get back in. Okay, that would be very valid too. Bad news, come down into here, scoop up a little bit of liquidity and go back to the upside. That would be another valid trade idea. So if you already made some massive gains on this move for Bitcoin, which was honestly monumental of about 7%, if you're on 10x leverage, that's a 70% gain, man. Take some money off the table. At least move your stop to break even. That's what I would do if I were in your shoes. And I'd take a little bit off the table to pay myself and say, boys, crypto, that was an immaculate trade, brother. Well done. And now the rest is risk-free. I'm all about risk-free trades, baby. I'm all about risk-free trades and moving those stops to break even. You guys know me. You guys know me. All right, diving on into the chat. That's just what I would do, man. Of course, not financial advice, but at least take your risk off the table. You know what sucks for trading? And this has happened to me before when I was first starting, right? I would get in, I'd be like, that's the bottom. We're going to $1 million a coin. Right? When I first started trading, I was a complete degen. It was crazy. But I'd get in and I'd see all this money come into my face, right? I'd be like, yes! And I wouldn't move my stop to break even. And then something would happen and it would look like that. And I'd be like, wow, I was in the gains and I got liquidated. What happened? Well, some kind of news or some kind of driver came out and I was looking at money in the face and I wasn't able to take it. That's why we took money off the table for virtuals. That's why we made some of the hottest trades of our trading account on Blowfin. And, we took money off the table and ended up being a great decision because virtual's now at a low when we were calling the bottom, right? So you have to take money off the table while you see it there. Once you're happy with some gains, you're like, hey, I'm going to make a trade that's 200 for 400. And when I'm in the profit by $100, I'm going to take 25% off the table and move my stop to break even, and I'm going to let the rest ride risk-free. That's a winning trade. Even though it doesn't go full TP or stop, hit your stop loss, it's risk-free to you to go to that $400 price target now because the odds of, you come back down to break even, what's the worst that happened? You made $100 and now you're right back where you started and you can look for the next trade setup. So that's what I would be looking at, man. Whenever you're making any kind of trade or investing, you take it all as advice reviews. All right, take it. It's just for entertainment, brother. Just for entertainment. But that's how I trade. That's how I keep my, that's how I decide whether I'm going to be taking profits. Now, I acknowledge and I know that I'm likely not going to catch the bottom. And every trader out there knows it. You're not likely to catch the macro bottom. Zoom out here for Bitcoin. How many people caught the macro bottom down here? Right here. How many people longed on, 20x leverage and held it all the way to 100K? Very few, if any. Very few, if any. Or you got that crack above the daily 200 MA. That's crazy. You put, that's the signs that you can, you get that macro turnaround, that daily 200 SMA. And that's what I'm looking at right here for a turnaround to the downside. But man, that's just how I like to trade and what I do whenever I'm diving on into the markets. Whenever I see money in front of my face, man, if it's too much money, if it's like, wow, if you say you're in profit $400, or I don't know what your financial situation is, man, but say you're in a profit of $1,000, right? And you're looking at $1,000, and you're like, wow, to people, $1,000 is a different amount of money. Some people it's like, wow, that's $1,000, holy crap. And others are like, wow, that's just a walk in the park. I make $1,000 a day, but depending on if you're looking at any amount of money and you're looking at it from a trade perspective and you're like, wow, I just made that amount of money. You don't make it until you take profits, brother. So taking a little bit off the table there's no shame in that. And if it continues to the upside, whatever, man, whatever. You got to have that mindset. Let it run without you. It is what it is. You made money on that trade and let the spot bags that you can rotate those profits into be your real money driver, man. Be your real money driver over the course of these immaculate bull runs. The spot is what's going to make you the biggest gainers over time because you don't have to stress about it. You don't need to look at your spot portfolio every day or so. You don't need to. I rest in peace knowing that my Bitcoin is likely going to be worth over $1 million one day, hopefully $5-10 million, and I could see that happening. That's the spot bag. I'm not opening up a 10x leverage long and being like, okay, I'm gonna wait for it to hit $1 million, $13 million, or $3 million or $5 million right now. I'm not doing that. I'm resting, relaxing and understanding my odds of success being way higher in the spot market than it is in leverage over the long term, right? Leverage, you're in, you're out, 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 you're in, you're out. I'm not holding leverage plays forever. And what would happen if you held a leverage play forever down here? You'd be paying fees the entire way up. And that's not even your Bitcoin, right? It's not your Bitcoin if you have it on leverage. So, you know, those small scalp moves, that's what I'd look to play on leverage. Just a couple days, you know, maybe a week tops for leverage positions. I'm going to be getting into some longer term swing plays. I think as we go throughout the rest of the year, when this market does start to fizzle out, we crack above the 200 MA, I'll be getting into some longer term, larger positions, 3 to 4x leverage. That's kind of the trading style I kind of want to dive into. Why? Because, you know, honestly, with this presidency, I feel like there's going to be a lot of stress in the upcoming few years when it comes to like intraday price movements. And I don't want to play that game. I don't want to be stressed out. And I think trading on the more macro time, the 4 hour, the daily are going to be way more up my alley. And I think that's kind of the kind of trader I want to be in the long run in terms of like making the freedom for myself, being able to go out and do things and, you know, my loved ones and everything. I don't want to be having to stare at my phone all day. And I think trading on the 4 hour and the daily is something I'm going to be diving on into a little bit more vice to smaller time frames. All right, diving on into the chat, baby. What are you guys saying? I appreciate you guys diving on into the chat. We want to check Pepe for reviews just for fun, man. Yeah, absolutely. JJ, Bitcoin dominance, thoughts on the top? I think we are nearing the top for Bitcoin dominance. So I'll check out Bitcoin dominance real quick. I did not forget you. Reviews, I got you, brother. Why am I saying this is the top? And we went over this on the stream every single day. Why do I say this is likely the top for BTC dominance whenever nobody else is talking about this? All right, here we go, baby. We got that inverted cup and handle coming up to the 618-786 bearish Fibonacci retracement with a giant gap in the VRVP to support a move that happened like back here in 2021 to the downside of roughly 40 to 50%. It'll happen fast. It only took about 4 months last time, man. We have weekly bearish divergence. We're in the golden pocket. I see a turnaround for Bitcoin dominance, man. We did talk about that earlier in the stream. We did a little bit of a deeper dive on Bitcoin dominance. Feel free to rewind and watch that, brother. We're going to dive on in. We're going to dive on into Pepe. Pepe, the #1 meme coin on Ethereum, getting absolutely wrecked. Why? Because Ethereum's getting wrecked. Ethereum's been absolutely bent over the barrel and shown the 50 states. Don't like how we're losing that. We're starting to play 200 MA dominoes. Look what happens when you lose the 1 minute 200 SMA. You go to the 3, you test the 3, you break the 3, you'll come to the 5. You break the 5, where are you going? You're going to test the 7. You're likely to come down here and test a 7 at about 6,585 for Pepe, baby. Falling down through this giant gap in the VRVP that was created really locally here. You know what's interesting? Was this a pulling from the high to the low? Yeah, you did get a bit of a 786 double top right there for Pepe to the downside. That's just on the smaller time frame. So, man, let's look at it on the daily because Ethereum's struggling on the daily. For fun, we'll look at Pepe, baby. And you guys know how I feel about the meme coins. With how I feel about the meme coins, I feel like I believe that some are going to stick around. I really do. I think Pepe is here to stay. It's one of the OG. I think there are a couple that are going to stay on the radar. I think Trump will be here for the next 4 years for sure. And, I don't think it's going to perform. I don't think we'll revisit the highs, but I think it'll be here. I think Pepe's here to stay. Dogecoin, definitely here to stay in the top 10. I don't see it moving from there. Floki, I think that will stay. I think there's a couple coins that are going to stay here in the space that have, stronger narrative than the rest of the meme coins. And Pepe being the #1 chain, the #1 meme on the second biggest cryptocurrency out there, I think this thing is here to stay as well. And when Pepe moves, baby. We can't deny that. Pepe moves a couple 100% in a few days. It happens all the time for Pepe. These moves are nothing to joke about. 40-50% moves in the span of a couple days. Can that happen again for Pepe? Yes, it can. All right. So Pepe, we're going to look at this range. We're going to ignore all this down here. And we're just going to look at the range that we are given here on the daily, baby. So we do have a couple important levels, couple of key areas of support. And right now you got kind of accepted back into this range down here. Support, support right here, support, we fell beneath. Is this going to be resistance now? We'll have to see. It's key to get above this high volume node sitting just above you at about 73.94. You want to reclaim that in order for a test of this daily 200 SMA on the macro. Doesn't look super strong here on the daily. You get the RSI curving up and the stochastics violently pointing up in the upward direction. You may be a little bit of relief here for Pepe, and if you do get that bounce on Ethereum, likely to be a relief for Pepe as well. If the meme coins are going to get a bounce, I do see squeeze potential for all these meme coins, the things that have gotten massively beaten down. Do I think they're going to revisit their highs? I don't know. I don't know if Pepe gets back to its high. That's a, to get back to its highs, isn't it crazy to think that that's a 400, 500% move to the upside? 340% move to crack the highs for Pepe. We were just trading here back in mid-December, not long ago. So, Pepe, baby, Pepe, it could go either way, but you're coming back down in this area. I'd like to see us get back above this key area that has served as support, resistance, support. Support. You fell back beneath, you got back above support, and now you're below it. And you haven't been able to reclaim it as support. I want to see some daily candle closes above this white line here, man, at about 67.91. That's what I want to see for Pepe going on in here to the future. On the smaller time frames, you're starting to play 200 MA dominoes to the downside. Not a good sign. You break that 7, man, you're likely to come and test the 15. And then you test the 15. And you could start, with that being said, you did make you made a higher low, a higher high. Where would I look at getting into Pepe? And this is just for fun, man. This is just for fun. I wouldn't advocate getting into any of these meme coins right now at this stage in the game. But yeah, the Fibonacci pool coming back down to make a higher low to do another change of market structure. Lower low, lower high. You made a higher low, a higher high. Where's that next higher low likely to come in? Down here right around the 15-minute 200 MA, baby. Sitting at about 63.04 and 60.74 for Pepe. And that does coincide with the 618 and that high volume node sitting there at about 63.24. So that's what I'd be looking at for Pepe as you go throughout the night, man. And even if that did come to fruition, you make a higher low right here. What would that do? It would create a very beautiful inverted head and shoulders that you could see here on the chart. Shoulder, you got your head, and you come make your right shoulder here at that 618. That would be a beautiful move here if you did get that head and shoulders to come to fruition to the upside for Pepe, baby. That would be that's a very, very nice kind of a projection here for what can happen to Pepe if the market structure does continue. You make that higher low, and that would be a nice area for a higher high before coming back to that higher low. Where would that higher low likely come in? At that, around that neckline for that support resistance flip, and then boom to the upside for Pepe. Could happen here. That's what I'm looking at for Pepe as you go throughout the night, brother, or the next couple days on the 15-minute time frame. On the 1 hour, yeah, that could take the next couple days to play out. But I would be looking at that 618, that 63 area being a that 0.000063 area being a very, very interesting area. But you are playing 200 MA dominoes to the downside. Just something to consider. I would expect the reaction off the 618, 786 area, brother. I appreciate you. All right, diving on in. I love the fast spot trading on DEX. And Nasty Kid says, yeah, man. Hey, brother, yeah. Yeah, decentralized exchanges and whatnot. Jupiter does it really fast. Solana does it pretty fast. You can do some really quick exchanges on for spot on DEX. I agree. Review says, I know a guy that will buy Pepe big time. I mean, worth the house money, and he says we'll buy somewhere in the next 2 weeks. I will never advocate that, brother. I will never advocate that. To me, if you're playing with house kind of money, I would like to be in something a little safer than the meme coins. Just my opinion, but that's just what I'm seeing. Different investment strategies, and man, there are people that have made millions of the Dogecoin millionaire, millions of dollars on meme coins, and then it went to absolutely nothing. So I don't know. Some people are gonna be like, hey, and make millions on meme coins. It's true. It's the reality. That's why people like going into the meme coins. It's the lottery of crypto, and you could argue that crypto's a lottery, but the meme coins are the lottery of the lottery. So if you hit it big in the meme coins are the area where you can turn $20 into $1 million. You're not gonna get that. You're not going to get that on Ethereum, Bitcoin, XRP, Solana. It will not happen. Impossible, just based off the market cap. But on those meme coins, that's where that is likely to come in if you are going to catch that if you're going to catch that in any kind of chart, the meme coins, baby, that's where it's at. If you want to turn that 20 into 1,000 or that 20 into 10,000, it's the only area that you're going to get it. Just like the only time you're going to turn $1 into 100 million into $1 billion is the lottery, right? It's the lottery. If you go and play that Mega Million Scratcher or $2 or whatever they cost, that's the only way you're turning $1 or $2 into millions or billions. The odds of you winning are very, very low. But if you don't play, you can't win. That's what the lottery slogan is anyway. That's what the lottery slogan is, baby. But yeah, yeah, that's just how I view the meme coin market. Can you make money in it? Absolutely. The odds of you making money in it are relatively low compared to Bitcoin and compared to the stock market and things of that nature. However, if you do hit that win on the meme coins, that could be life-changing money that you would have never found in Bitcoin, Ethereum. I got to be honest, it's true. If you do find that gem, that 1000x gem, things in the top 100 are not going to 1000x. It's not going to happen. You're not going to see a $1,000 or $2,000 XRP, regardless of the $2 price. You're not going to see a $100 Dogecoin. There's not enough money in the world / the market to do that. However, on those low market cap coins, those meme coins that just come out, if they get a little bit of a backing, things that come out based off of news, look what Peanut did. Look what Peanut the Squirrel did. If for those of you who don't know what Peanut the Squirrel is, Peanut was some kind of squirrel that got murdered by cops or something. I don't know, way back in the day. But look at this. When that came out, when Peanut the Squirrel came out, right? Let's look at this on the 1 hour. Zooming on back. This was a news-driven catalyst, right? And the people that got in back here, and this was released, a couple hours, right, on Dex Screener. Look at this. For anybody who got into Peanut down here at these prices, it didn't matter where you got in down here. Let's take from the swing low. Look at this. The move on these meme coins, and these are all news-driven catalysts. You would have multiplied your money, your investment in Peanut, in the span of a couple hours, in the span of a day. These overnight millionaires were made on this coin. You multiplied your money by, you made a 115,607% gain in a day in 14 hours. So you 1,156x'd your money. So every dollar turned into $1,000 for Peanut over the course of a night. So if you invested $10 or $20, you would have made $10, $20, you would have made 10 grand, 20 grand, $100, $100,000. That's the kind of money that is available, with these this is what's possible in the meme coin market. Is it likely to happen every time? No. Is it likely you catch this? No, very rare. But in the event that it takes off, that's the area you got to be looking at with these low cap. Look at this. Yo, hold on. For Peanut the Squirrel, it went higher. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Look at Peanut the Squirrel. This is what made millionaires. This made millionaires. I'm telling you guys. Yeah, 16,000. Not from the bottom, baby. You can't even catch the bottom here on the chart. This was a 1.2 million % increase in a week and a half. The only area you're going to get that is in the meme coin market. This is the only area. I will acknowledge that. I don't invest heavily in this area. Why? Because it doesn't go into my risk portfolio. If I put $10 into every single meme that came out on Dex Screener, the odds of me hitting are slim to none. But yeah, this was a $1.2 million price increase here in 11 days, or a 1.2 million % increase in 11 days. You went from, 1/100th of a fraction of a penny to trading up at $2.50. What a wild move for Peanut. All right, diving on into the chat, baby. Diving on into the chat. Yeah, 16-year-old kid put $28 in the Pepe. Yeah, made $1 million. That's what the meme coin market can do. That's why it's attractive to people. And I don't blame anybody for being attracted to the meme coin market, because that's where a massive amount of money is gained. The odds of you hitting are very low. Peanut the Squirrel, just another random coin released on Dex, but got massive attention in the news and drove this coin to Valhalla. Very, very true. Yeah, that's crazy what some people can make. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, it's super wild what a small amount of money can do for you in the meme coin market in these low cap gems. But the odds of you hitting this, the amount of times you're going to have to put $20 into a meme coin for this to happen, could equate to the amount of money you make off of Peanut, going up, 1,000,000%. Very, very true. But that's what I'm looking at, baby. That's what I'm looking at, going on into this the rest of the week. We got Peanut, baby, Peanut. That's great. I'm going to do a little bit of dive on Housecoin. The housing market, more expensive than it ever has been. And one of the biggest problems that we have here in the United States, and for a lot of you guys, I know the average house in Canada is what, 700 grand? So, people can't keep up with this. It's absolutely crazy. So it's interesting to see something that looks to take on the, inflation that's going on in the housing market and, potentially hedge against a crash. If we did get a hedge against a crash in the housing market, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if this coin took off, that'd be kind of crazy. Especially getting in when there's only 2,800 people following it. Interesting. I'm going to do a little dive in the white paper on that. That's really interesting to me. All right. But that's what I'm looking at for the markets. We are in a very volatile time, everybody. We're in a volatile time, and we got to acknowledge that. We understand that the tariffs are massive news drivers, and just like that, tomorrow, Trump could flip the switch again and go to the downside, and we could be seeing lows for the NASDAQ. These are the biggest candles that I've ever seen in the history for traditional markets. It's true. This was the big... Does anybody know of a candle for the NQ that was 15% in a single day? I think that was a record-breaking candle. Is record and record spelled the same way? Interesting. I'll have to do a little dive into this, but I'm pretty sure that had to have been a record candle. Look at this candle on the daily. Do we see anything like that going back in history on a single day? This is on the daily, mind you. I don't see a single candle that's like that. This is 2015. I don't see a single candle that's that big on the daily. Nowhere. 2021 crash? No, nothing's that big on the daily. That's true. That's wild to see. That could be history right there. I'd have to look and I'll dive into that a little deeper. But yeah, that's the kind of volatility that we're seeing right now in the markets, and that's why leverage trading is so crazy right now. It is a wild. Look at the weekly. These are massive candles on the weekly. It's very important to manage your risk in these kind of environments and understand that we're at the mercy of not only the world leaders right now, but a Twitter account and a True Social account. I just can't put my money behind. I can't put my money behind that right now. I can't. So that's why I'm sitting a lot in spot right now. I'm just observing the markets. I love doing this analysis with you guys every single night, and it's really crazy to see how the market's been reacting. You know what's cool? When you're sitting on the sidelines knowing that you would have lost if you were in trades. I would have been losing in these trades. I would have been short. Here. Why would I have been short? Well, you're looking at some of the crazy. I would have been short right here, and breaking those prior lows, you get a little bit of rejection off the 200 MA. This is bear market territory, and I'd be back up to break it. That candle would have wiped me. That would have been crazy. I would have put my stop to break even, wiped on the candle. I would have lost that trade. It's true. It's a reality. So knowing that I would have lost trades and not trading is, to me, saving money. I love that. So that's just what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm doing right now, baby. Christoph, what's going on? Dropping on into the chat. I appreciate you. Yesterday, pump seemed to get lost. It was only a news-triggered pump. Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. I would not be surprised to see this candle at least retrace 61% from where from once we came. This could come down here and make a higher low at about the $17,000 level. We could see a 2,000 point drop tomorrow in the NQ. It's possible. We could see it in Bitcoin. We could see it in all sorts of risk on assets. Let's see how gold's doing, baby. Let's dive on into gold. I want to dive on into gold before we get out of here, baby. Let's see how the market's feeling about the uncertainty. The market got a massive rally today. You were likely to see a gigantic dump in gold. And look at this. This is interesting. Gold going on a little bit of a tear. So it's really strange to see markets pumping and gold pumping at the same time. You don't often see that. Gold making a monumental move to the upside here, saying that there's still a lot of uncertainty in the market, and gold's going to rally when there's massive uncertainty. And though we have massive 90-day pauses on a lot of the tariffs coming from these countries, giving them the opportunity to make deals with the United States, we're still dealing with the Bowser of it all, China, baby, China. We'll see what President Xi decides to do with the United States, whether he's going to make a deal or make it harder on us, and he has the ability to really choke out the American consumer. It is true. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. We'll see what happens in the coming news events. These big economic drivers tomorrow coming in with the initial jobless claims and the initial jobless claims and the CPI and PPI, baby, coming on in on Friday, baby. But that's what I'm looking at going on into the market, going on into tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Everybody be ready. Be ready. You're likely to see a God candle, one of those big dildo candles, everybody, big red or big green, likely to see it tomorrow based on the news drivers or how. And you know what's crazy? The economists can do whatever they want. But I promise you, even the economists are confused about the economy right now. So their estimates may be way off. So we have to acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge as much uncertainty is in the economy right now, economists are just as confused the same way. So those estimates may be very off from the actual data that comes in. And if they are, that will drive the market like nothing you've ever seen. So it's very, very important to see after a record-breaking candle on the NASDAQ and, you know, not for Bitcoin, but a big move on Bitcoin and the altcoins greenery in the day. You can see these past 4 hours. These are no joke, 4-hour candles. These are minus 4 or 5% on the entire market cap of these assets. For a lot of these, Farcoin down 5%. Like these are big candles. These are big candles, no joke. So we are in a very, very highly volatile environment right now. It's important that we watch these news drivers going on into the rest of the day. Hey, everybody, I am gonna kill it a little early today. Why? I got some family in. I want to hang out with them tonight and enjoy some time with the family. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys diving on in with me tonight, as we did have a monumental green day in crypto. Everybody, I will see you all tomorrow on the live. I appreciate each and every single one of you for being here and joining me tonight on the Boys Crypto Show. I will see you guys tomorrow. Much love, everybody. Stick with the market tomorrow at 8:30. Keep up to date with me on Twitter at BoysCrypto102. If you guys do not follow me, drop a follow. Before you head out of here, make sure to smash the like on the stream. It's greatly appreciated and helps me out a lot. Much love, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Until next time, Boys Crypto is out, baby. We are out. I will see you tomorrow on the live. Tomorrow night on the live, baby. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Much love.